Hello, New Zealand. This is David Blackman speaking to you from Sydney, Australia. Hope you're all well. To my good friend and colleague, Rabbi Ariel Tal from Wellington, a big shkoach to you and thank you for this opportunity to share some Torah insights with you in our lead up to Shavuot. To my colleagues, Rabbi Friedler and Rabbi Israel Glick in Auckland, looking forward to seeing all of you post COVID. Let's jump straight into the story, Megillat Ruth, the story of Ruth that we have accustomed to read on Shavuot. The custom is underscored by a number of comments. One is that the people of Israel underwent this mass conversion at the foot of the mountain during the revelation of Hashem's presence through that experience of Matan Torah. And Ruth, by extension, is the paradigm of conversion to Judaism, and therefore the story of conversion of the Jewish people, and Ruth in particular, are parallel one to the other, so we read her on Shavuot. Another aspect, of course, is that her descendant is King David. His Yortzeit is on Shavuot, and therefore the Book of Ruth is widely studied on our Yontif Shavuot. I'd like to zoom into one particular detail in the story to try and explain a deeper dimension behind a puzzling move of a very prestigious couple named as Elimelech and Naomi. They are a rabbinic couple. They're very well off. They are pillars of the community, leaders in their generation, and they abandon the people of Israel in their times of need. The people of Israel are going through a very rough famine at the time, and their relationship with the surrounding cultures is also quite threatening. There's a lot of trouble in the land of Israel. It's a low point in that period of the judges in Israel. And while the morale is low, it is dealt a blow by the emigration of this great rabbi and his wife, this leadership couple, Elimelech and Naomi, with their two boys, Machlon and Chilion, as they emigrate out of Israel to the lands of Moab. This emigration does not find favor in Hashem's eyes. He's very, very critical of Elimelech's move, and this results in Elimelech actually dying in the prime of his life. Hashem's anger is further inflamed as a result of the assimilation that looks like is taking place there, where the two boys climb up the social ladder and marry the two princesses of Eglon, who's the king of Moab. According to the opinion that I want to share with you, because it's not clear in the text, Machlon is the older one and Chilion is the younger one. Machlon, being the older one, is a little bit reluctant to marry a Moabite girl, even if they would convert. Chilion, the younger one, he takes initiative and marries the older daughter of King Eglon, whose name is Orpah. When once Chilion broke the ice, Machlon no longer could withstand the pressure from the Moabite royal family, and he too acquiesced and eventually marries Ruth. This interpretation is part of the insight I want to share with you from a book called the Meshiv Nefesh. It's a commentary on Megillat Ruth. It's written by Rav Yoel Sirkis, who's well known to us as the author of his commentary, the Bach, on the halachic work, the Tur. He was a Rav who lived he was born in 1561, lived all his life in Poland, just under 80 years of age, a tremendously well-known halachist. This commentary has some wonderful insights, and it's the base of what I share with you tonight. We are looking to try and understand what motivated Elimelech to move to Moab. The story doesn't end completely in tragedy. The story, as you know, once Hashem has punished this family, Elimelech has died, Machlon and Chilion, the two young husbands, have died, leaving the three girls to their own devices, and survival is in the balance here. And Naomi feels the only way she can survive is to go back to Israel. And the two girls have a choice to either go with her or to return back to the palace from whence they came. Orpah decides that her life is better in Moab, and she returns. Ruth, whose motivation to her mother-in-law, her loyalty to her mother-in-law, and her commitment to the ideology of Yiddishkeit, of monotheism, of Torah values, draws her to Naomi, and she sticks by her as an ally of note. Her kindness is highlighted as a feature of her personality. I think even in English one could say that possibly the derivation of this term, somebody who's cruel and has no kindness in them, is not Ruth, but ruthless. Naomi and Ruth cross the border back into Eretz Israel, into the land of Israel, and they reach out to their family. They have a very prominent family, and the most prominent of all is Boaz, who's the judge at the time, the chief rabbi, if you will, of the generation. He eventually marries Ruth, and they set in motion a family tree where the line of King David emerges, and by extension, the King Mashiach himself will issue from King David. Ruth therefore becomes the mother of royalty and the grandmother of Melech HaMashiach himself. That's the basic story. But again, can we make sense of Elimelech's move to emigrate from the land of Israel? 99% of the commentaries are so critical, as is the text of his move, and find no redeeming qualities in Elimelech's move. What attracted me to the commentary of the Bach in this Meshiv Nefesh commentary is that he does find a unique dimension, a deeper understanding of what motivated Elimelech, even if it ends for him, Elimelech, in tragedy. Ultimately, the results were something that he planned. How do we understand and appreciate this? The story needs to begin with Avram and Sarah. All those years ago, our first patriarch and matriarch of the Jewish family, Avram Avinu, Abraham and Sarah, are married as a couple living in the land of Israel, which is also struck by famine in those days. Hashem directs them to Egypt to spend time there as the famine subsides. Going to Egypt was really dangerous in those days, specifically for a beautiful woman like Sarah. The king had a law that any woman that came past his door was his for the taking if he wanted. And therefore, all customs officials, if they saw people coming through and they thought that this would make a good shidduch for the king, were ordered to grab the woman and make the shidduch with the king of Mitzrayim. As they get to Egypt, Avram Avinu realizes that if this happens to his beautiful wife, and they realize that he's married to her, they are going to execute him. And therefore he asks Sarah to state that their relationship is one of brother and sister and not of husband and wife. And that way he gives himself a bit more time to try and deal with the situation. If they know that he's the brother and they don't have to kill him, he'll survive, and through help from Hashem, they'll work their way through this quagmire. At the customs entry, they are stopped, and Sarah is asked for her relationship to Avram. She says that he's my brother, and as a result, to motivate the brother Abraham to give Sarah to the king, they shower him with wealth. What's interesting is that at that moment in time, we need to appreciate that there's another fellow who's with them as well. Part of this family entourage is a nephew to Abraham, a fellow called Lot. Lot is not the man of faith that Abraham is. He's an opportunist, he's a strategist. He is much more interested in his well-being and his own interests than in his faith in Hashem. But at that time, Lot could have gone either way, but he already was recognized as an opportunist. This fellow Lot eventually separates from Avram and Sarah, and his interests take him to a place called Sodom, known for its unethical behavior and evil values. To Lot, this became an opportunity to grow his wealth and his prestige, and he leaves the spiritual cocoon of Abraham and Sarah, and he settles in Sodom. Eventually, Sodom is destroyed by nuclear blast. However, Lot is rescued by two angels, together with two of his daughters. And the commentaries struggle to understand how Lot merited to be saved based on the description of his personality that we have just heard. What did Lot do? What good did he do that he deserved to be spared the destruction of Sodom? I once heard a tremendous insight from Rav Yaakov Fisher, who was a Dayan in Yerushalayim, and I was a young bocher in yeshiva, and I heard him give over a talk in which he quoted some midrashim and put it together to share this insight on Lot's survival. Lot was destined to survive Sodom because of the reward that he accrued back at that customs meeting between the custom officers and Sarah. You see, Lot always looks after his own pocket. And he was flabbergasted to see how Abraham got all this wealth, pretending to be Sarah's brother. And what irked him even more was that he, Lot, was the real brother of Sarah. Yet he held himself back, did not blow the whistle on Abraham, and kept quiet. It was a real challenge for Lot. He could have blown the whistle, got all the money, and end the story. But he chose to do the right thing, surprisingly. And all he had to do was keep stum, keep quiet. And Avram and Sarah survived. In merit of Lot keeping quiet and vouchsafing the lives, especially of Avram and Sarah, Lot earns himself a place in Jewish history. And he puts in motion spiritual DNA that accrues from this great act or repercussions that will come from the act that he did, the continuity of the Jewish people. He accrues such spiritual merit that there's the spiritual DNA, which we could call a neshama, that he was destined to father, that will hang in abeyance, waiting for the right moment to join and vouchsafe the continuity of the Jewish people. As we well know the story, Lot and his two daughters find refuge in a cave after the destruction of Sodom. The two girls think that the entire world has been destroyed. And in their naivete, they get their father drunk and have him impregnate them, both of them conceiving from that act of incest, producing two boys. The older daughter produces a boy and calls him Moav. She has no shame. He's Moav. He comes from my father. This Moav, although conceived incestuously, because of Lot's reward, there's a neshama, a soul, that embeds itself with the spiritual quality that came as a result of Lot's noble act of keeping quiet. And this spiritual entity is brought into the world of souls. And it hangs in abeyance until the right time will roll in and allow this neshama to join the Jewish people. This concept, this prophetic tradition, that there is a noble soul deserved of tremendous input to the Jewish people, is hiding in the culture of Moab for so many years. I did a calculation from the oldest daughter being impregnated by Lot, which happened in the Hebrew calendar year of 2048. That's 3,632 years ago. From the year 2048 in the Hebrew calendar, this neshama hangs in abeyance, waiting for the right moment, and it exists there in the world of souls for 737 years until it takes its rightful place in Jewish history. Elimelech is aware of this prophecy, and here is a tremendous insight that our commentary, the Meishiv Nefesh, develops for us. The Megillah opens Vahi b'mei Shvot HaShoftim. It was in the days of the judges. The Gemara, our Talmud, which I will read to you quickly, I'll just translate it. Rabbi Yochanan, in Masechet Baba Batra, Daf Tet Vav Amud Bet, Rabbi Yochanan introduces us to a deep idea. The translation of the words Vahi b'mei Shvot HaShoftim is not as I said it was. It's not that it was in the days of the judges. That would be Vahi b'mei HaShoftim. Shvot HaShoftim, says Rabbi Yochanan the following. He says, what does it mean, b'mei Shvot HaShoftim? It happened in the days when the judges judged. Says Rabbi Yochanan, it's telling you about the ethical level of the Jewish people, which had sunk to an all-time low in that historical era. It was a level where even the judges were corrupt, and the judges deserve to be judged. And therefore, says Rav Yochanan, this ethical challenge of the Jewish people, where the greats of that generation saw the Jewish people just hurtling downward into an ethical abyss, had to do something to try and rescue the people. And Elimelech, in his wisdom, as one of the greatest of the generation, thought he had a solution to the people of Israel who were doing whatever they wanted and just simply losing connection to the Torah values that they had received. Says Elimelech to himself, to his wife, the way to save and rescue the Jewish people from this ethical abyss is to find that neshama that is hiding in the culture of Moab. That neshama needs to join another soul amongst the people of Israel, and the two neshamas together will give rise to the monarchy of Israel, which will produce King David and eventually the Melech HaMashiach. And if we can produce this monarchy, which will have executive power to control the Jewish people, to teach them, but also to hold them tight and hold them accountable, this ethical abyss that we are experiencing now will be sorted out and uplifted. And therefore, the only way to solve this problem is to try and find that neshama. And says Elimelech, I know how to do it. The Midrash tells us that Elimelech is really a nickname given to him by the prophecy in Tanakh. And Elimelech stands for Eli Tavo Malchut. Through me will come Jewish royalty. This was his motivation and this was his plan. His idea was to go to Moab to attract that spiritual entity that somewhere in the whole culture, in the millions of people of Moab, that spiritual entity is there waiting to be captured or attracted back to join the Jewish people. And by having his sons marry in, he's convinced that the righteousness of him and his sons and his wife Nomi will attract a certain type of person with that neshama, and they'll be able to capture it and through conversion bring it back to join another neshama in the people of Israel and solve this ethical dilemma and problem that everyone's experiencing. Vayahi, whenever you use Vayahi, it's of negative connotations. There's a bad time going on. Shvot HaShoftim, even the judges cannot judge because they are unethical. They can be bribed. And if the judges are unethical, how much more so the people will be. We have to solve the problem. And that is, says the Meishiv Nefesh, the motivation of Elimelech to emigrate with his family, as a rabbinic leadership family, to emigrate from the land of Israel to an absolutely, an environment absolutely devoid of Yiddishkeit, to try and somehow, through his mystical powers, attract this spiritual entity that was put in motion all those centuries ago by Lot, through his daughter Moab, and all the way through to that generation. And he was not wrong. Ruth eventually marries into the family. Ruth converts. Ruth goes with Nomi back to the land of Israel, marries Boaz, and the rest, as we say, is Messianic history. They produce a line leading to King David, and King David line leads to Mashiach. So Elimelech knew what he was doing. He had unbelievable motivation. It was for the good of the people of Israel. There's always only one big problem. You need the rubber stamp from the boss. And Hashem did not approve of this method, did not think that this is the right way to go. Specifically, the way he did it, instead of only emigrating for a short amount of time, bringing the girls back and have them follow protocol in converting properly before anything else happened, Elimelech took on a lot on his shoulders. He moved there, he became a resident there, he stayed there for a very, very long time. He processed the conversion without using the formal steps that were in play. He did a lot on his own two shoulders, and Hashem totally disapproved. According to this way of thinking, it's not clear when the girls converted, but it's clear that they were living together with Machlon and Chilion beforehand, and this caused Hashem to be angry. And Elimelech paid for it dearly with his life, so did the two boys. In summation, what we have is a very deep understanding of why it is that the great rabbi would endanger the spiritual well-being of his family and emigrate at a time of need from the land of Israel to go to a culture which is so foreign to Yiddishkeit and its values are the antithesis of what we've been brought up to understand and work with. Why does he do it? He wants to rescue the Jewish people, because the Jewish people are in this ethical abyss. They are suffering from everybody doing as they please and no discipline. And he thinks that by attracting and capturing this neshama that's hidden in the culture of Moab, through prophetic understanding, he knows he can find it, bring it back, marry it within the world of Israel, and the neshamas together will produce a monarchy which will rescue Am Yisrael from its spiritual problems. His motivation was good. His knowledge and application of mystical secrets out of this world, but his method was unapproved by God and violated many, many points, and therefore he paid with it. But in the end, he brought Ruth. It was his actions that brought Ruth back to Israel and kick-started the destiny of Melech HaMashiach. Wishing you well, Chag Sameach. Looking forward to seeing you everybody in person. Enjoy Yom Yerushalayim tonight and tomorrow, and celebrate the privilege of being part of Hashem's chosen people on Shavuot. All the best to you. Laila Tov.